When the phone rang that night, I almost didn't answer. It was late, too late for good news, and I'd learned, over the years, that silence was safer than hope. But something about the way it rang sharp, desperate, like the sound carried weight, made me pick up. "Mrs. Reynolds," a voice trembled on the other end. It's Emily. Please. I need your help." Emily. My daughter-in-law. The same woman who once told me, coldly, politely, that I wasn't welcome in her home anymore. I could still remember that day like a bruise that never healed. The air smelled of lemon cleaner and fresh paint. She'd been standing by the doorway, one hand resting on her swollen belly, her lips tight with resolve. My son, Daniel, had stood behind her, silent, his eyes fixed on the floor like a guilty child. "Mom," she'd said, her voice steady but thin, "I think it's best if we take some space for a while." Space. That was her word for exile. So when she called me that night, years later, whispering between shallow breaths, I didn't know what to say. "What happened?" I asked, my hand trembling around the receiver. There was a pause, one that stretched too long to be anything ordinary. "It's Daniel," she said finally. "He's been in an accident." The world tilted. I gripped the kitchen counter just to keep myself upright. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Only the sound of the clock ticking on the wall reminded me that time hadn't stopped. That was the night I walked back into their lives, the same house I'd been banned from. And nothing after that would ever be the same again. Before everything fell apart, my life was quiet. Not peaceful, just manageable. I lived alone in a small house at the edge of town, surrounded by hydrangeas I planted with Daniel when he was 10. They bloomed blue in the summer, the color of his old soccer uniform. Sometimes I'd sit by the window with a cup of tea and watch them sway in the wind, pretending that was enough. I had my routines: morning walks, evening news, Sunday church. People said I was strong. I suppose that's what they call you when you keep going even after being pushed aside. Daniel had always been my world. After his father died, it was just the two of us. He was only 15 then, sweet, protective, always checking if I'd eaten before he left for school. He used to say, "It's you and me, Mom." Always. But always turned out to be shorter than I thought. When he met Emily, things changed. She was polite at first, too polite, in that careful way some people are when they're trying to impress. A teacher, soft-spoken, the kind of woman who always seemed to be performing kindness. The first dinner I cooked for her, she complimented the roast, but never finished it. She smiled, but her eyes kept flicking to Daniel every time I spoke, as if measuring how much of me she'd have to accept. After they got married, I tried, God knows I tried, to make her feel like family. I brought gifts for their home, baked her favorite pie, offered to help when the baby was coming. But slowly, my presence became inconvenient. She started deciding things for both of them. The holidays, the visits, even how often I could see my grandson, little Noah. It started with excuses: "He's napping, we're busy, it's not a good time." Then one day, it wasn't an excuse. It was a decision. She stood in her driveway, her voice calm, her words rehearsed. "Mrs. Reynolds, I think Daniel and I need some boundaries. We need to build our own family without..." That's what she called love. Daniel stood beside her, hands in his pockets, jaw tight. He didn't look at me. Not once. So I left. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just walked away with what little pride I had left. For years, I lived with the silence that followed. Birthdays passed without calls. Holidays came and went without invitations. Even the photos they posted online felt like ghosts of a life I used to be part of. But love doesn't stop when it's unwelcome. It just waits, quietly, painfully, for the day it might be needed again. That day came on a cold November night, when the phone rang and Emily's voice broke through years of distance. I arrived at the hospital an hour later. The air smelled of antiseptic and grief. Emily sat in the waiting room, her hair disheveled, mascara smudged. She looked smaller somehow, fragile in a way I'd never seen. When she saw me, her face crumpled. "I didn't know who else to call," she whispered. For a moment, I wanted to hold on to my anger, the years of hurt she'd caused me. But when I saw her trembling hands, something inside me softened. What happened? I asked again. She swallowed hard. There was a car accident. Daniel was driving home from work. A truck ran a red light. My knees nearly gave out. He's alive, she added quickly, but he's in surgery. Hours passed in slow motion. We sat side by side in silence, two women bound by love for the same man and a history of unspoken resentment. When the doctor finally came out, his expression said everything before his words did. Your husband has sustained severe injuries, he told Emily. We did everything we could. The rest of his sentence faded beneath the sound of her scream. I felt the world collapse around us. Emily buried her face in her hands. I stood frozen, unable to move or speak. My son, my only child, was gone. I don't remember how long we stayed there or who drove us home. I only remember standing. I'd been excluded from family photos, children's toys, the faint scent of baby lotion lingering in the air. Noah was asleep upstairs, unaware that the world had shifted beneath him. Emily sat on the couch, staring into nothing. I poured her water, though she never touched it. Then, she looked up at me, eyes red, voice trembling. I'm sorry, she whispered, for everything I did to you. Her words should have comforted me, but all I felt was the ache of years lost, the birthdays, the laughter, the moments I could never get back. Still, I nodded, because forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about surviving. That night, as the house fell silent, I heard Noah stir upstairs. He called out softly, Mom. And without thinking, I climbed the stairs, pushed open his door, and whispered, No, sweetheart. It's Grandma. He blinked sleepily, then reached for my hand. In that small, fragile moment, I knew no matter what came next, I couldn't leave them again. The morning after Daniel's death, the house felt different. Too quiet. Too still. Like the air itself had forgotten how to breathe. I woke up on the couch, my neck stiff. That morning, I promised myself I wouldn't leave him again. Not until he was okay. But grief doesn't pause for promises. In the days that followed, I began to notice something about Emily, something I couldn't quite name at first. She was distant, distracted, almost hollow. When friends came to offer condolences, she barely spoke. When I tried to help with the funeral arrangements, she brushed me off. At first, I thought it was grief. But there were moments, small, fleeting ones, when I caught her looking at me with something like guilt. Once, I found her sitting in Daniel's office, holding a stack of envelopes. When she saw me, she shoved them into a drawer. Her eyes were red, but not from crying. What are those? I asked. Bills, she said quickly. Just bills. But there was something in her voice, a tremor that didn't sound like grief. It sounded like fear. It was a week after the funeral when I discovered the truth. The morning had started quietly. I was folding laundry in the living room while Noah played with his blocks. Emily had gone out to take care of paperwork, but hours passed and she didn't return. When I went to tidy up Daniel's office, I noticed the drawer she'd hidden the envelopes in was slightly open. I shouldn't have looked. I told myself that. But curiosity has a way of disguising itself as concern. Inside the drawer were not bills, but letters. Dozens of them. Unopened, with my name on the front. Each one written in Daniel's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened the first one. Mom, I know you probably won't read this. Emily said you wouldn't want to hear from me anymore, but I need you to know I'm sorry for how things ended. I didn't mean to choose sides. I just wanted peace in the house. I thought if I kept quiet, things would get better. I pressed a hand to my mouth. Tears blurred the words. The second letter was worse. Emily doesn't want me to visit. She says it confuses Noah when you come around. Protect her space, but it doesn't feel right. I miss you, Mom. I miss home. Letter after letter, the same ache spilled out, apologies, guilt, longing. He had written to me for years, and she'd hidden them all. I sat there for hours, reading until the ink blurred beneath my tears. When Emily came home, she found me at the desk, the letters spread out like a confession. For the first time since Daniel's death, her face drained of color. You kept these from me, I said quietly. My voice shook, but I didn't raise it. Why? She stared at the floor. It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like, I demanded. She sank into the chair opposite me, her shoulders trembling. "I thought I was protecting our family," she said. "Daniel was torn between us. Every time you called, he'd get anxious. Every visit turned into an argument. I just wanted peace." "Peace," I whispered. "You wanted control." She looked up, eyes red. "Maybe I did. But you don't understand what it was like living in your shadow, always compared to you, always second in his heart. I was his wife, but you were his everything." Her voice cracked. And for a moment, I saw it, the insecurity, the jealousy that had been growing quietly beneath her smile all those years. "I'm sorry," she said finally, her voice breaking. "I know I went too far. But it was too late for sorry. Too late for letters. Too late for years of stolen love." I stood, gathering the letters carefully, each one trembling in my hands. "You took him from me long before the accident," I said softly. "You just didn't realize what you were losing too." I walked out of that office, my heart aching in ways words can't describe. That night, I couldn't sleep. The rain tapped against the windows like a restless spirit. Every sound in the house felt haunted by Daniel's laughter, his apologies, his love. I thought about leaving. But when I peeked into Noah's room and saw him curled up, clutching his father's old scarf, I knew I couldn't. I sat on the floor beside his bed until morning, tracing the edge of one of Daniel's letters between my fingers. I whispered a quiet promise into the dark. "I'll stay, my son. For him." The next morning, I found Emily packing. "What are you doing?" I asked. She didn't look up. "We're moving. I can't stay in this house anymore. Not with the memories." She hesitated. "Noah and me." I felt my stomach twist. He just lost his father. "You can't uproot him like this." "I have to," she said, zipping the suitcase. "There's too much here. Too many reminders." "Where will you go?" She paused, biting her lip. "I don't know yet. My sister said we could stay for a while." I looked at her, this woman who had taken my son, my family, and now wanted to take the last piece of him I had left. "No," I said quietly. She frowned. "You don't get to decide that." "No," I repeated, stepping closer. "But neither do you, not when you're making decisions out of guilt, not when your grief is blinding you to what's best for Noah." She turned away, her hands shaking. "You don't understand, I understand perfectly," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You want to run because staying means facing what you did. But that little boy upstairs deserves stability. He deserves both sides of his family." For a long moment, we just stood there in silence. Then, for the first time, she broke. Her shoulders slumped. She covered her face with her hands and sobbed loud, aching sobs that filled the room. And I held her. Because that's what Daniel would have wanted. Emily cried for what felt like hours. Not the quiet kind of crying she used to do when she wanted sympathy, but the kind that comes from a place so deep it can't be hidden anymore. Sobs finally quieted, she whispered, "I don't know how to do this without him." Her voice sounded smaller than I'd ever heard it. And in that moment, I saw not the woman who'd kept my son's letters hidden, but the widow he'd left behind. I poured her a cup of tea and sat with her in silence. The steam rose between us like a fragile truce. "You don't have to do it alone," I said softly. "None of us can." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I could tell she hadn't expected kindness. Maybe she thought I'd throw her out, or curse her for what she'd done. But that's not who I am. Grief changes people, but it also reveals them. That night, I stayed in Daniel's house again. Emily went to bed early, and I tucked Noah in, reading him one of Daniel's old storybooks, the one with the dragon and the little boy who always found his way home. When I closed the book, Noah looked up at me and said, "Grandma, can Daddy still hear me?" I swallowed hard. "Yes, sweetheart. He can." "Then tell him I love him," he whispered. I brushed his hair back and kissed his forehead. "He already knows." When I went back downstairs, I found Emily sitting in the living room again. Only this time, there was a photo album open on the table, one I hadn't seen before. "Daniel started this when Noah was born," she said quietly. "He wanted to make a book for him, but he never finished." The last page was blank, except for a small sticky note Daniel had left. It read, "Mom, save a page for you. I'll get you to write something when we visit." I couldn't breathe. It was as if he'd known that, one day, we'd need to find our way back to each other through this. Over the next few weeks, I helped Emily settle into something resembling routine. We cooked together, awkwardly at first, then with the kind of quiet rhythm grief teaches you. She'd stir while I chopped. I'd clean while she hummed softly under her breath. Some days she broke down in the middle of cooking, her hands shaking over the sink. Other days she managed a small smile when Noah came running into the kitchen, his laughter piercing through the heaviness like sunlight through storm clouds. But even as we began to coexist, I could feel something still brewing beneath the surface, an unease, a tension I couldn't name. One afternoon, while cleaning out Daniel's old office, I found an unopened envelope labeled insurance policy. At first, I thought it was part of the usual paperwork. But when I opened it, my heart sank. The beneficiary listed wasn't Emily. It was me. I froze. Daniel had made me the sole beneficiary of his life insurance. I sat there for a long time, trying to process what that meant. Did he never update it? Or had he meant to keep it that way? When Emily came home, I couldn't hide it. I placed the document on the table between us. Her eyes widened as she read it. Then her face changed, panic first, then disbelief, then anger. "What is this?" she whispered. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I didn't even know this existed." "He left everything to you?" Her voice broke. "Even after everything we built together?" "It's not about money, Emily," I said. "It's about what he didn't get to fix." But she wasn't listening anymore. Tears streamed down her face, and she backed away from the table as if I'd struck her. "You think this makes you the victim," she said bitterly. "But you were the wedge between us, not me. You just couldn't let him go." The words cut deep, but I didn't respond. Because I knew there was truth in them too. I had held onto him too tightly. I had built my world around being needed by him. And when Emily came along, I didn't know how to let go. Now, it seemed, Daniel's last decision was forcing both of us to face what we'd become. Word spread quickly. By the time the lawyer called for a meeting, Emily's family already knew. Her sister, Rachel, showed up that afternoon, angry, sharp-tongued, and ready for battle. "I can't believe you take advantage of her like this," she said, her arms crossed. "She's grieving and you're cashing in." I kept my voice calm. "I didn't ask for this, Rachel. I didn't even know." But she wasn't interested in hearing me. Emily stood behind her, silent, her face pale. She wouldn't meet my eyes. The lawyer explained that Daniel had taken out the policy years ago, before the marriage. He'd never changed it. Legally, it was mine. Emotionally, it was a wound neither of us knew how to heal. "I'll sign it over," I said quietly. Emily looked up, startled. "What?" "I'll give you the money," I continued. "All of it." "I don't need it." The lawyer frowned. "Mrs. Reynolds, that's—" "No," I interrupted. "It's what Daniel would have wanted. He loved you. And I won't dishonor that." For a long time, no one spoke. Then Emily started to cry again, softly this time. Rachel left soon after, muttering something about pride. But Emily stayed. When the door closed behind her sister, she turned to me and said, "Why would you do that?" I smiled sadly. Because forgiveness isn't about what people deserve. It's about what we need to live with ourselves. The next few weeks were quiet again. But this time, the silence felt different. Lighter. One evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, Emily joined me on the porch. Noah was playing in the yard, chasing fireflies with a jar. "You know," she said softly, "I used to think you were my enemy." "And now?" She smiled faintly. "Now I think you're the only one who understands what I lost." I nodded, watching Noah's laughter dance through the twilight. "We both lost him," I said. "But maybe we can love what he left behind together." That night, when I went to bed, I found one last letter I hadn't opened before, tucked inside a book Daniel used to read. "Mom, if you're reading this, it means I didn't fix things in time. Please look after them for me. Emily means well. She just loves fiercely. Don't let that turn into hate. Teach Noah where he comes from. Teach him love the way you taught me." I cried for a long time. Not just for what I'd lost, but for what I'd finally understood. Love isn't about possession. It's about presence. Even after you're gone. Grief has a strange way of slowing time. The days after that felt stretched and blurred, each one bleeding quietly into the next. The neighbors stopped dropping off casseroles. The calls faded. The sympathy cards stopped arriving. Life went back to normal for everyone except for us. For Emily, it meant learning how to live without Daniel's presence filling the house. For me, it meant learning how to love her without resentment. And for Noah, it meant learning that some people don't come back, no matter how many times you look out the window waiting for their car. The small town we lived in had always loved Daniel. He'd been the golden boy, the one who helped elderly neighbors carry groceries, the one who coached Little League on weekends. So when word got out about the insurance money and the will, people talked. At the grocery store, I heard whispers. Did you hear? His mother gave up everything to the wife. Must be nice to be that forgiving. Or worse, maybe she felt guilty. But I didn't correct them. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. What I'd done wasn't about forgiveness in their eyes. It was about freedom in mine. Letting go of resentment had freed me more than any money ever could. Still, gossip has a way of reaching the wrong ears. One afternoon, Emily came home from picking up Noah at preschool with red eyes. They were whispering, she said, her voice trembling. Two of the other moms. They said I used you. That Daniel must have regretted marrying me. I reached out, taking her hand. People say things when they don't understand pain. But it's not true, is it? She asked, her voice fragile. No, I said. Daniel loved you. Even when it was hard. That's the kind of love that doesn't disappear. She nodded, but I could tell the words. Didn't reach her yet. Grief can make truth sound like fiction. A few days later, she surprised me. I've been thinking, she said one evening after dinner, about staying here. I looked up from the dishes. You mean not moving? She nodded. Noah loves his school. This house, it was his father's. It feels wrong to run from it. I smiled quietly. I think Daniel would have liked that. Then she hesitated, glancing at me. But I don't think I can handle it alone. The mortgage, the bills, it's a lot. Then we'll do it together, I said simply. Her eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't expected the offer. You'd stay here? With us. I already am, I said with a soft laugh. And I think Daniel would sleep easier knowing we're taking care of each other. That night, she cried again, but not from grief. From relief. The following months were a quiet rebuilding. I took on the garden. Emily went back to teaching part-time. We shared chores, meals, and sometimes, even laughter. But the real healing came through Noah. He began drawing pictures again, scribbled stick figures of mommy, grandma, and a big smiling daddy in the sky. One afternoon, he came running into the kitchen holding one of his drawings. Grandma, look. I made a new family picture. I bent down to see it. There we were, 3 people holding hands beneath a bright yellow sun. He'd drawn hearts floating above our heads. You forgot Daddy, Emily said gently. Noah shook his head. No, he's in the sun. He's watching. I felt my throat tighten. Sometimes, children see truths adults are too broken to accept. A few weeks later, I found Emily sitting on the porch steps late at night. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the crickets outside. Can't sleep? I asked. She shook her head. I was thinking about that night. The accident. Her voice cracked slightly. He was supposed to pick me up from work, but I told him I'd walk home. I wanted to teach him a lesson for being late the night before. If I hadn't, she stopped herself, her breath catching. Emily, I said softly, sitting beside her, don't do that. She turned to me, her eyes filled with tears. I was angry. Petty. I made him drive that night just to prove a point. You didn't make him die, I said firmly. You argued, like every couple does. You couldn't have known. But I'll always know it was my fight that put him in that car. The guilt in her voice was the same guilt I'd carried for years. Mine had different roots, but the same poison. Listen to me, I said, my hand over hers. We can't go back. We can only make peace with what we did and live differently now. She took a deep breath, her tears finally slowing. I'm trying, she whispered. For Noah. For him. And for yourself, I added. She nodded, barely. But that small nod told me she was ready to start forgiving herself. Spring came early that year. The hydrangeas I'd planted long ago started blooming again, bright, full, defiant against the memory of loss. Emily joined me in the garden one morning, her hands dirty, her face streaked with sunlight. "I never understood why Daniel loved these flowers so much," she said. "They were his father's favorite," I said. "He planted them with me when he was little. Said they looked like happiness." She smiled faintly. "Then I guess it runs in the family." That day, we planted 3 new bushes, one for Daniel, one for Noah, one for the life we were building anew. Later that summer, the church held a small memorial for Daniel. Not the kind with speeches and music, just quiet remembrance. Emily asked me to speak. I stood in front of the congregation, holding one of Daniel's old letters in my hand. "I used to think forgiveness was something you gave once," I began. "But it's not. It's something you choose every day, even when the pain tries to remind you of reasons not to." I looked at Emily, sitting in the front row, holding Noah in her lap. My son taught me that love isn't about holding on, it's about letting go and trusting that the good we gave will live on through others. My voice trembled, but I smiled. "And I think he'd be proud of the family we're still trying to be." When I stepped down, Emily hugged me. Not the polite kind from years ago, but the kind that says, "I see you now." After the service, Noah tugged at my sleeve. "Grandma," he said, "do you think Daddy heard you?" I smiled, looking up at the soft light filtering through the stained glass. "I think he did, sweetheart. And I think he's smiling too." That night, I sat by Daniel's grave, the grass cool beneath my hands. I didn't cry this time. I just talked to him. "Your son is growing strong," I whispered. "And she's learning to breathe again. We both are." The wind moved gently through the trees, and for a moment, it felt like an answer. I closed my eyes and let the silence hold me, grateful, not for what I lost, but for what I found again. Peace. Grief doesn't end. It changes shape. It softens. It teaches you how to live around the empty spaces. For a long time, the house felt haunted not by ghosts, but by memories. Daniel's coat still hung by the door, his mug still sat on the second shelf, and his laughter seemed to echo faintly through the hallways whenever Noah giggled in the next room. But slowly, life began to return in small, quiet ways. One morning, I woke to the sound of pancakes sizzling in the kitchen. For a brief moment, I thought I was dreaming. Daniel used to cook breakfast every Sunday. When I walked in, I found Emily flipping pancakes with Noah standing on a stool beside her, covered in flour and pride. "Grandma, Mommy taught me how to cook," he shouted. Emily turned, smiling shyly. "We're trying new traditions." It was such a simple thing. But in that moment, I realized grief had made us family in a way love alone never could. Over the months that followed, the rhythm of our lives settled into something that felt almost peaceful. Mornings were for school and work. Afternoons for gardening or walks to the park. Evenings for quiet dinners where Noah told stories that grew taller every week. Sometimes, Emily would glance at me across the table, and we'd share a small, wordless smile, an acknowledgement of how far we'd come. There were still hard days, of course. Birthdays. Anniversaries. The first Christmas without Daniel. On those nights, the ache came back, the kind that makes your chest tighten and your breath falter. But instead of breaking us, it bound us. We'd light a candle for him at dinner, each of us saying one thing we remembered about him. Noah always said, "Daddy made the best silly faces." Emily said, "He could never remember where he parked." And I always said, "He loved us fiercely." Every single day. Those memories didn't erase the pain, but they gave it purpose. One afternoon, Emily came home with something unexpected. It was a framed photo, one I hadn't seen in years. Daniel, holding a baby Noah, grinning like he was holding the world itself. "I found this in an old box," she said. "Thought it should go here." She placed it on the mantel above the fireplace. The sunlight hit the glass just right, making Daniel's eyes glow with that same spark I remembered. "Perfect," I whispered. She stood beside me for a moment, her voice quiet. "I think he'd be proud of us." "I think so too," I said. Not because we did everything right, but because we didn't give up. By spring, Emily started laughing again. Not the brittle, nervous laughter she used to hide behind, but the kind that came from deep inside. She joined a local art class, started painting again, and even made new friends. One day, she showed me a canvas she'd been working on. It was a landscape, soft pastel colors, gentle strokes of sky and earth, and in the corner, 3 small figures standing beneath a tree. That, you, me, and Noah. It was beautiful. And for the first time, I realized we were no longer living in the shadow of loss. We were creating something new. Noah grew fast. He learned to ride his bike, to spell grandma with too many A's, and to talk to the stars every night before bed. One evening, I heard him whispering through his open window. "What are you doing, sweetheart?" I asked softly. "Talking to Daddy," he said. I told him Mommy doesn't cry as much now. I swallowed the lump in my throat. What did he say? Noah smiled. He said he knows. He said you take care of her. Children have their own way of understanding love. Maybe not literally, but deeply, purely. That night, I slept better than I had in years. As time went on, I noticed something change in Emily, too. Her posture straightened. Her eyes were clearer. Her voice stronger. One evening, she came into the living room holding a cup of tea. "I've been offered a full-time position," she said. "At the school. They want me to lead the art program." "That's wonderful," I said, smiling. She hesitated. "It means longer hours. I'll need help with Noah." I laughed softly. "I think I can manage. I raised one boy already." She grinned, and for a second, she looked like the woman Daniel must have fallen in love with all those years ago, before fear and pride and distance had clouded it. The summer after that, Emily suggested something unexpected. "Let's take a trip," she said one morning over breakfast. "Just the 3 of us." "Where to?" "The lake," she said. Daniel loved it there. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right, let's go." We spent 3 days in a small cabin by the water. Noah caught his first fish. Emily painted the sunrise every morning. And I sat on the porch with my tea, feeling Daniel in the wind, the water, the laughter that echoed through the trees. On the last night, we built a small fire by the shore. Emily brought out a folded piece of paper and handed it to me. "I wrote him a letter," she said. "Would you read it with me?" I nodded, and she unfolded the paper with trembling hands. "Daniel," she began softly, "I'm sorry it took me this long to find peace. I thought forgiving myself meant forgetting you, but I know now it means remembering you without breaking. Thank you for loving me. For loving us. We're okay now. You can rest." She placed the letter into the fire, and we watched it curl and rise into the night sky, sparks dissolving into the stars. Noah whispered, "Bye, Daddy." And for the first time, Emily whispered back, "Good night, my love." When we got home, I stood in the garden among the blooming hydrangeas. The air smelled like earth and hope. I thought about the years of silence, the pain, the anger, and how somehow, through all of it, love had survived. Not perfect, not easy, but real. A few weeks later, Emily brought me a gift. It was a new photo album. On the first page, she'd written in neat handwriting for Noah, "From Grandma and Mommy. So he'll always know that love, even broken, can be rebuilt." I smiled, tears stinging my eyes. And when I turned the page, I saw Daniel's face again, smiling between the 2 women who finally understood each other. That night, as I turned off the lights and walked down the hallway, I whispered quietly, "Thank you, my son, for teaching us how to love, even after goodbye." It's been 3 years since that night, the night Emily called me, her voice breaking through years of silence. Sometimes I still wake to the sound of the phone ringing in my dreams. Only now, it no longer brings panic. It brings memory. Life isn't what I thought it would be. It's quieter, softer. But maybe that's what healing really looks like, less noise, more truth. Noah is love ever dies. I told him, "No, sweetheart. It just changes its home." And I meant it. Because I see Daniel in his eyes every single day. In the way he tilts his head when he's curious. In the way he protects his mother when she's tired. In the way he hugs me tight without needing words. Emily and I still have our differences. We still argue about bedtime, about too much sugar, about whether Noah should climb that tree in the yard. But when she smiles now, it's real. And when she calls me mom, it's not out of obligation, it's out of love. We don't talk much about the past anymore. The pain is still there, buried deep, but it no longer defines us. Instead, we talk about tomorrow, the school play, the garden, the summer trip we'll take next year. And sometimes, when the house is quiet and the hydrangeas sway outside the window, I close my eyes and imagine Daniel sitting with us, smiling, content. Because in the end, love doesn't leave. It lingers in the people it touched, in the lessons it taught, in the lives it quietly reshaped. So if you're listening to this, wherever you are in your own story, if someone has shut you out, or hurt you, or made you question your worth, remember this. Forgiveness isn't surrender. It's freedom. I thought I lost my son when his wife banned me from their home. But life had a different plan. It brought me back, not to the past, but to the family I was always meant to have. Would you have answered that phone call after everything that happened? Tell me in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, because sometimes the hardest goodbyes lead us back to the most unexpected beginnings.